Okay, you may think you drank too much that one time at your best friend's weekend bash, but that can't even compare to this celebration. At 1:10 in the morning on May 9th, 1945, Moscow received the first transmission stating that Nazi Germany had officially surrendered. While most countries would probably wait until daytime before beginning their celebrations, Russians everywhere went out on the streets to celebrate. But while the war was over now, the Russian populace would begin to face a new issue: a lack of vodka. During the early morning party and onward through the day, the Russian people drank so much vodka that not even a day later, they had virtually run out. While other nations had massive celebrations, they were all far more controlled than those that went down in Moscow. I mean, think about this. They drank the country dry in less than 24 hours. Number 9. Jackson's Cheese Party. How many people would you invite to your house to help you eat ridiculous amounts of cheese? 5? 20? What about 10,000? Well, that's what U.S. President Andrew Jackson did in 1835 during some of his last days in office. On the final year of Jackson's second term as president, a New Yorker named Thomas Meacham donated to him a 1,400-pound cheese wheel to celebrate the near end of his presidency. Jackson let the cheese ferment for the year and politely asked the nation, "Come help me eat my cheese." The day of the cheese eating arrived and roughly 10,000 people showed up. Despite their numbers, the crowd actually took about a full 2 hours to finish the cheese, with each person having an average of a quarter of a cup of cheese. Sadly enough for the next president, Martin Van Buren, the White House would stink of cheese for weeks after. Number 8. Alexander the Great's drunken rampage. Booze sure does love to make people say stupid things. Luckily, if you aren't anybody important, nobody's really going to care, especially if you're hammered. But what if you were somebody like Alexander the Great? Well, after capturing the Persian capital, Persepolis, he and his army threw a party of massive proportions. Now, when the average person gets drunk and makes a bad decision, it'll usually end up as drunken sex with a stranger, a night or two in prison, or some other relatively harmless drunken mistake. Alexander, on the other hand, well, the theme of the party changed quite a bit when, while drunk, Alexander ordered his army to burn the city to the ground in drunken revelry. Eventually, morning came and Alexander sobered up to see what his drunken words had caused. You can imagine it must have been pretty awkward for him to get up and admit that he didn't mean to burn the city down. So just be glad that you're not an all-powerful leader whose every order is to be obeyed, because if so, your drunken ramblings might one day be acted upon. Number 7. The Sultan of Brunei's birthday party. What would you do if you had an infinite amount of money of which to throw a party with? Would you rent out a palace? An island? Haji Hassan Al, the Sultan of Brunei, knew exactly what to do when his 50th birthday came around in 1996. Well, you might feed your guests pizza and pop. The Sultan of Brunei made sure his 10,000 guests had quality caviar and champagne. Instead of turning on the radio or maybe watching a movie, the Sultan desired to hire Michael Jackson to throw a concert, of which the Sultan decided not to attend. The total cost of his birthday bash came down to roughly $27.2 million. While the party does sound admittedly amazing, unless you become one of the world's few absolute monarchs, chances are you'll just have to settle for inviting a few friends over and playing video games. Number 6. Admiral Edward Russells' rather large cocktail party. Have you ever looked at an amount of food or drink and thought to yourself, "I'm never going to be able to finish this"? Well, you haven't seen anything yet. Admiral Edward Russell decided it would be a good time to take a fountain, have it filled to the brim with alcohol, and invite 5,000 of his closest friends and sailors to drink from the cocktail fountain. The mixture contained brandy, Malaga wine, lemon and lime juice, and around 5 pounds of nutmeg. He and his sailors took a week to finish the entire cocktail and were each presumably drunk the entire time. His bartenders paddled around the fountain in a canoe serving the sailors, each one only taking 15-minute shifts simply due to the fumes coming off the liquor. Eventually, they got to say that the rum is gone before sobering up and returning to their lives. Number 5. The grand opening of the Roman Colosseum. If you know anybody who's ever finished a deck, chances are when they finished it, they had a barbecue of some kind where everybody on the street came down for a few hours. After all, they probably put a few good weeks into building it. But what would the celebration be like for a 10-year-long project like the completion of the Roman Colosseum? Finished in 80 AD, the people of Rome celebrated for just a little over 3 months. In total, 9,000 animals and roughly 2,000 gladiators were killed during the celebrations. So next time you think you've been up too late at a New Year's Eve party, think again at how long a good party should really be. Number 4. The Black and White Ball. In 1965, Truman Capote published the book In Cold Blood, which detailed the murders of 4 members of a Kansas farming family. The book was a smash hit and well worth the 6 years of effort Truman spent writing it. In celebration of his achievement, he threw a party called the Black and White Ball. It would soon be awarded the title of Party of the Century, as anybody that thought they were somebody desperately begged for invites. In total, only 540 people were invited, and absolutely everybody in attendance was in some way a big deal. From actors to politicians to even royalty. It was held at the finest venue at the time, New York's own Plaza Hotel, and included feasts, dancing, and of course, a black and white dress code. This resulted in a lot of uninvited people becoming very angry, with several party guests even being attacked. While nothing happened to Truman, be careful if you someday wish to host such an elite event. You never know how angry an uninvited guest may get. Number 3. The opening night of Les Noces. Sarah and Gerald Murphy, friends of Pablo Picasso, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Igor Stravinsky, wanted to celebrate the opening night of Stravinsky's new play in June 1923. While normal friends may throw a patio party, the two of them wanted to do it in style and decided it should be an all-nighter on a party barge going down France's Seine River. Of the many antics that went on during the party, Stravinsky switched around everyone's seating cards, palm readers arrived and gave everyone readings, and Pablo Picasso himself rearranged the centerpieces on each table into humorous scenes. To signify the end of the party, Stravinsky jumped through a massive laurel wreath at dawn and proclaimed Mr. and Mrs. Murphy, the chicest couple in all of France. Number 2. The time France and England met in peace. The year of 1520 is one of the few times in pre-modern history where France and England were not at one another's throats. In fact, their respective monarchs, Francis I and Henry VIII, were actually meeting in peace to discuss the Ottoman invasions in the east. However, they didn't end up doing much discussion or planning, as the two kings were far too busy one-upping each other in various contests like archery, jousting, and who could wear the largest codpiece. The talks lasted for 17 days, in which a fair amount of alcohol was drunk, and temporary castles were even built for mock sieges. Of course, with all of this going on, they didn't figure out much about what to do with the Ottoman threat, which grew severely worse and ended up conquering a significant part of the Balkans, including Greece. Number 1. Prince William of England's royal wedding. When it comes to the royal family of England, weddings happen but once in a lifetime. So when one happens, you want to make sure you're able to see it. The wedding of Prince William was streamed to a total of 180 countries around the world. It's impossible to determine how many people tuned in simply due to time zones and different airtime, but rough estimates put it at 150 million viewers, with 23 million of those in the United States alone. The wedding is estimated to be the most televised celebration ever, even beating out Michael Jackson's memorial service. The cost of the wedding was a massive $70 million, with quite a bit of that due to the hiked-up security cost around such an event. While the event could have even had a massive negative effect on the economy, luckily Prince William's father, Prince Charles, happened to be a billionaire, and the event actually brought in over $500 million of merchandise into the economy.